Hello, I'm Andy Martins. Welcome back to Civic Affairs. It's a great pleasure to welcome Ward 3 Councillor Matt Shoemaker to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Just a quick off the top, we'll talk about the new bus proposed Sunday night thing. I think that's a great experiment to have, and your numbers are showing that Sunday night is a good night to do this.
Yeah, so the numbers on Sunday may not support the sort of traditional route system that we've got, but we're proposing this on-demand transit app where you would hail a bus just like you could hail an Uber, and it would bring you from point A to point B. During the pilot period, there may be a time where we're running the routes and we're running the app to see what the uptake is, but it's worth looking at whether or not we can improve Sunday service by making the service better for the resident and the cost to provide it less expensive for the city.
When were we looking at that kicking in roughly? If give us the viewers a time period, when do you see that being activated?
Well, we've got a request for proposals that's going out, so I expect that we would have an answer back within 6 to 8 weeks at council, and from there, the implementation period would be part of that request for proposals. So we'll know by summer when a pilot program might get off the ground.
Have Councillor Hilsinger and yourself heard from Ward 3 residents that they think this is a good idea? Have you heard any feedback going in on this?
Yeah, there's one particular area in Ward 3 at the end of Lake Street, Pawotting Place, that struggles with bus service. Frankly, the frequency of it, the timing of it, and so it just I think that this will be a great pilot project to determine whether or not there are those areas that have difficulty with the existing bus service that can be improved by this pilot program.
Matt, going back to 2014, was there any one thing that happened that you said, well, this is it, I'm going to run to be a councillor, that started all of this?
Yeah, not any one thing. I've always, loved the city, and I came back after I went to law school. I came back in 2012 and wanted to, be involved and make a difference and try and, help others come back to the community like I was able to. So, it's about making sure that the city's growing, making sure that voices of people who are from my generation are being heard at the council table, and I didn't see that was happening, and so I decided to get involved.
I remember, because I ran in 2014 too, they were saying, well, Matt Shoemaker's too young, maybe he won't grasp this concept, and here we are 5 years later and you've become a very effective councillor.
Well, there'll always be the naysayers.
It's a tough thing, though. It's a long learning curve, and now you're assisting your ward mate in learning the ropes and the Robert's Rule of Order, and you can't do it in a week. You need more than a week to get there.
It was surprising how long it takes you to get your legs in the job, and so I know that any of the new councillors who have asked me, I've been happy to offer my support and my help to, because it takes a while to figure out who am I sending these road questions to, who am I sending these transit questions to make sure that you're getting the answers for the constituents. So that was a learning curve, and if I can help be of any assistance to the 5 new councillors, I'm happy to.
And it's as simple as at the beginning of the council meeting, you have to declare your pecuniary interest. You can't forget to do things like that. It seems so simple, but it's a very important thing that you need to learn how to do.
Yeah, I mean, you risk losing your seat on council if you don't do that. So that's an important one.
The budget was 3.53. We've talked about that, and I recall you saying that it could have been lower, and council only reduced staff recommendation by $39,000. Could this have been lower, in all honesty, the budget in percentage?
So I think the preliminary budget that initially came to us was at about 3.5, and I don't have the exact number in front of me. I brought forward proposals that reduced it by $800,000, so it went down to 2.8. And no, 2.7, sorry. And then what council did was added back into it to bring it back up to 3.5. So were there things in there that I thought shouldn't have been added back in? Yes, there were. I think we could have had it somewhere closer to 2.8, 2.9 instead of where it is, which is 3.5, which is why I ultimately voted against the budget. But
Right.
I did bring forward 800,000 in savings proposals that were accepted.
And I've had this other discussion with other councillors, 0%, everybody wants 0%. This community had it in the early 90s, but 0% every year, it comes to hurt you a little bit if you do that.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in our roads today, you know. So
Exactly.
0% every year. We should always strive for zero, but every year we won't get there. That's what I would say about 0%. We should always be striving for it, but we won't get there every year. We should. I have always said that taxes should be at or below the rate of inflation, but that does not mean going to the rate of inflation every year. That means keeping it as low as possible, recognizing that there will be some adjustment necessary every now and then.
What do you say to the naysayers that say council should stop spending? Spending is the problem.
Well, there's validity in certain respects to that. You know, I think that there is spending that can be reviewed or you know, that made sense 10 years ago that perhaps doesn't make sense anymore. But, you know, there simply is spending that has to be done. We have to fix roads. We have to plow roads. We have to cut the grass in parks. We have to maintain our buildings. So, you know, there is some amount of spending that you just have to do to operate a city properly. So
how's our snow removal budget now that winter is more or less over? Have we exhausted it pretty well, or?
So typically they'll bring a report on the snow removal budget, whether it was under budget or over budget, in April. We just had a meeting yesterday. It wasn't on that agenda, so I expect it'll be later this month.
Right.
I don't know, but I expect it will be higher than what we budgeted for, just because the late winter and a lot of snow late in the winter, and you know, I don't anticipate good things but from the snow removal budget this year. And
we talked about before the broadcast that the roads were a little rough. My son has friends that drove him to the pea patch. They must have gotten a lot of calls on that.
Lots of calls. I think between March 11th and March 19th, I got something like 90 calls in 1 week. So it was it was an issue everywhere. I understand from my Ward 5 counterparts, they were getting calls, and from my Ward 1 counterparts, they were getting calls. So it's not that they were any worse in the pea patch than anywhere else, but they were bad
definitely,
everywhere.
Long, big snow piles. Stay right there, Matt. We'll be right back with Councillor Matt Shoemaker after these messages. Thanks for coming back to Civic Affairs. We're having a great conversation with Ward 3 Councillor Matt Shoemaker. Matt, Amazon, that was a big deal in 2018. Are you planning anything big for 2019? And would you have done anything different on the Amazon file? And comments on U.S. politicians losing Amazon in New York.
Yeah, well, Amazon was an opportunity that we had, or that presented itself, that we jumped at. So it was, you know, it's not that I planned an Amazon bid per se. It's that the opportunity was there, and I asked that the city, you know, jump at the opportunity. So if such an opportunity presents itself again, would I propose that the city jump at it? Absolutely. But I don't have anything, you know, it wasn't my proposal, so I don't have anything in the hopper, so to speak, of that scale. The folks who lost it, I shake my head, you know.
A lot of hard work and money, and you lose it, you know.
So, you know, I'm dumbfounded by that.
Can big companies survive in small cities? And as a councillor, what would you bring forward to help the right conditions for this to happen, create the right conditions?
I think I think it's, I tried to sell Sault Ste. Marie as the ideal place for a big company to
Right.
come because we don't have the congestion. We don't have the, the affordability crisis that there is in big cities. We don't have 2 hours each way to work. We've got access to all the big centers. We can get to Detroit and we can get to Toronto, which means we can get to anywhere in the world we
Right.
need to within a 1 hour, 45 minute, or a 45 minute to 1 hour flight. So I would say that if these companies were strategic, they would already be looking at Sault Ste. Marie, places like Sault Ste. Marie, not just Sault Ste. Marie. They would be looking at places like Sault Ste. Marie to establish their offices, because this is where you get a happy workforce, great quality
Right,
of life,
exactly.
low cost of operating, and so many other benefits.
Decentralization, your workforce being happy as opposed to a huge turnover makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Promoting Sault Ste. Marie and Toronto along that line, is this the right time to do that with the mayor and Tom there? I think there's a lot of opportunities going on with Oshawa and Windsor and everything in between. People are really struggling there with being able to sustain a lifestyle in the GTA.
Yeah, and that's what part of what Future SSM is doing. They are having a job fair there this month, in April, to try and attract folks from the GTA and Toronto to come to Sault Ste. Marie, and again, sell them on those things like the great quality of life, like the job availability. I mean, you go on Algoma Steel's website and they've got something like 60 jobs available.
Right.
So, today. So, and with the anticipated future growth, those are people we need to come to the Soo.
Exactly, and I'm a living example. 29 years later, it worked for me because I have a house now that I wouldn't have in Toronto, and the lifestyle is so much simpler.
Yep.
How do we attract these skilled trades to Sault Ste. Marie? Again, you've got to sell the lifestyle, and it's a lot of hard work to make it happen.
It is hard work to make it happen, but we can make it happen, organically if we're partnering with the college and the university to train the people that are needed at Algoma Steel and Tenaris and Flakeboard and Bonifacio Mill. If those types of workplaces can pluck from the college the positions they need. Even Soo Online, I know, has a partnership with the college and the university
Right.
to have technical students, AV students here working. So it's, the type of partnerships that we need to make sure that skilled tradespeople know that if they go to Soo College, if they go to Algoma U, they're going to have a good job in the Soo when they get out.
Some people say the mayor should be traveling more like our late former mayor, John Rosewell. What's your thinking on that? Does the mayor need to travel more to sell his community?
He has been traveling lots, from what I understand. He goes to Toronto regularly for these job fairs, to meet with
Right.
various companies, to meet with the OLG, to meet with Noront, to meet with whoever he thinks is the best group of folks to meet with to promote Sault Ste. Marie, to sell Sault Ste. Marie. Whether he needs to travel more or less, I am not the judge of. Only the voters can judge that.
Exactly, and everybody's going to do it differently, but you've got to find a balance on how you do it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mayor said in his own inaugural remarks that, during the past term, during the previous term, he was focused, on the internal operations of the city and making sure that it was in the right order. And in the next term, he would be looking, outward to change the focus to attract others to the community. So I'm paraphrasing him, but I think that was generally the sense you got from his remarks.
Oh, for sure. And the average viewer doesn't know at the first term, the 2014 to 2018, that you guys had a really hard go at it. Things were undecided and unstable, and
yeah, we were dealing with Algoma and creditor protection for the whole 4 years, so it was certainly not an easy 4-year term.
What are your goals and objectives, Matt, for 2019? Let's take the year at hand first. Do you have anything that you're looking at, making it happen?
Yeah, one of them has just today been accomplished. In fact, since I was on council 5 years ago, been pushing for the Soo to be not deemed a construction employer, so that we could accept bids from any company, unionized, not unionized, or unionized with a different union than the two we are bound to. Just today, word in that the provincial government has changed the law, that municipalities are no longer construction employers, so that's a huge win for the city. I'm glad for whatever role I played in it. I realize it's provincial legislation that made it happen, but I tried hard to lobby. I tried hard to put our city at the forefront of the issue, and we saw results today, so I'm happy that I could help with that.
If you can let our viewers know quickly in terms of how Sault Ste. Marie was hurt by this rule.
Yeah, so the estimates are that costs for construction work, like the recladding of City Hall, the residing and the rewindowing of City Hall, are anywhere from 3 to 30% higher under the current system. So it's a $5 million job. That means we may have saved, if we weren't bound by the by this designation, anywhere from something like 50,000 to 500,000.
Wow, so it makes a real difference. Yeah. Stay right there. We'll take another quick break and we'll be back with Ward 3 Councillor Matt Shoemaker. Welcome back. We're talking with Ward 3 Councillor Matt Shoemaker, who's definitely one of the most effective councillors on council. And 4 years ago, people thought, wow, he's too young, and you've done well, sir.
Thank you.
Single sourcing. I know, having followed council very closely, more than most people, you're not a fan of single sourcing, but get some quick comments on sometimes it does happen, kind of thing.
Yeah, so 3 or 4 years ago, the staff came to us to single source the mausoleum at the cemetery, and it created a bit of an issue. We redrafted the bylaw at that point to ensure that there is less single sourcing that is done. But there are times when it makes sense. Last night
was an example
of that. We approved a contract with a marina dock company that had replaced several docks in our marina last year when they failed under emergency circumstances. So it made sense to go with them this year because it all connected into the same system. Last year they were the lowest bidder. They went through a competitive process. This year it made sense to continue to go with them so that all of our docks in the Bondar Marina were of the same product and the same installation type. So it makes sense in certain occasions, but it's definitely the exception.
When you're looking at the agenda and staff recommendations on single sourcing, is there a criteria that you have that you look at it and say, well, this situation, I'm not going to be in favor of it?
I look at the reports. The report on the marina last
from Tom Barrett
was very well done. It explained very clearly why single sourcing made sense in this circumstance. And if it's not clear, if there's any question that it's one of these ones that's on the line, I would say it should go out to RFP. But I look at it on a case-by-case basis.
I looked at it too, and it made sense that this is the vendor's done it before, and we want to get it done as quickly as possible.
That's right.
We were talking in a commercial break about consent agenda, and I can't tell you, every council meeting people come to me and they don't understand it. Maybe in a simple way you can explain consent and how councillors can take items out of consent and so on and so forth.
Yeah, the consent agenda is made up of things that are not expected to be, that are kind of routine reports, right? That are not expected to be contentious, but
by themselves.
By themselves, that's right. So you vote on them all as one package, but you can say, no, I don't agree with this item, or I don't agree with that item. I want to remove it from consent and vote on it separately and have a separate debate on it. So it's just a way of organizing the agenda to make the meetings efficient. So you're not debating every item one by one. You can have a general debate on some items that aren't contentious.
And you also have that some councillors may be in conflict with consent items.
That's right, and it voting on the whole thing as a package your conflict is noted, but you don't have to vote on each thing individually.
Future Sault Ste. Marie, are you concerned about the provincial funding withdrawal and the level 3 facility? We talked about it before the show. We're not getting much traction from the provincial government in 2019 so far.
Yeah, you know, it's we were spoiled, I would say, for 14 years when David Orzetti was our MPP. He got everything we needed: the hospital, new schools, Don Doucette Youth Center, new Algoma Public Health Building, new college buildings, new university buildings, plus increases in funding for a lot of these places. So, you know, am I disappointed the provincial government has reneged on their promise to fund us under future SSM? Of course I am, and I think that our MPP has been silent on this issue and needs to stand up and explain to the community why his government has cut the funding.
And it was an even playing field. David wasn't a cabinet minister. Our current MVP is not a cabinet minister, both in government. So it's not as though David had an advantage of being cabinet minister.
Yeah, David was cabinet minister for 3 years. That he was there,
the last piece of it, yeah.
But the first 10 he wasn't. So, you know, it's the same circumstance we currently have.
It's apples to apples. Ward 3 issues, if we can quickly talk about our Councillor Hilsinger and you working on some key issues for Ward 3 at the moment. Or?
Yeah, so her and I speak regularly. I've known Donna for 7-8 years, so you know, it's not that this is the first time we've worked together. Good relationship we've got. We spoke a couple weeks ago about some ideas she has that she wants to bring forward, that I have that I want to bring forward. So you'll see those coming throughout the year. And
she told me last week, right on the show, that she really appreciates your knowledge. The young guys teaching the old lady.
Well, I wouldn't say she's an old lady, but
she was being funny. Yeah,
I'm happy to help in any way.
Boards and committees, can you let our viewers know the value the average day-to-day citizen doesn't realize that councillors and citizens spend a lot of time with our boards and committees, the value of what this brings at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, it's a group that has more time. Various boards and committees have more time to look a bit more in depth at some of the issues that council is considering. So when a heritage property comes to council for a tax rebate, council can be confident that the heritage committee has already looked at it, determined the historic value of the property, determined whether or not it qualifies for the program, and then be sure that, you know, then we can make our decision. It's ultimately council's decision, yes or no, whether to approve it. But that's just one example of the work that these committees do behind the scenes to help council make their decision.
Got less than a minute to go. I wanted to ask you the big question of the day. Are you running for mayor in 2022?
Well, we're in 2019, and I just filed my campaign expenses for 2018, so there's a long time to go before
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that you're going to be the next mayor of Sault Ste. Marie, but good answer. You'll take it 1 year at a time.
1 year at a time.
Matt, thanks for coming in. Appreciate the time. That is Ward 3 Councillor Matt Shoemaker. Thanks for watching. I'm Andy Martins at Civic Affairs. We'll see you next week.